welcome back to the Synergy Sanctum. My name is Justin. Thank you so much for stopping by. Here at the Synergy Sanctum, we specialize in all things related to Magic the Gathering, with a specific focus on deck building. So I aim to show you very quick deck text that'll show you all of the cards in the deck and how they work together to ultimately achieve the goals of that deck. If you're not already, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that. And we also have a sister channel now, so head on over to Commander Coliseum and check out their content as well. And for today's deck tech, we have for you Orthion, Hero of Lavabrink, an EDH Enter the Battlefield token deck. I saw some gameplay with Orthion and I just fell in love with this, mainly someone turning that smog enchantment from the Lord of the Rings set into 5 separate smogs and like 70 treasures, and that was the inspiration for my own build. So the goal of this deck is to be able to do that second ability that Orthion has on him, paying 9 mana into him, and then creating 5 tokens that are copies of another target creature you control. So really broken here, and it gets kind of crazy with how much damage and stuff happens, and I'll call that out in the video for things like Terror of the Peaks and other ones. But Orthion right now, current TCG market value of this deck is $220 to $272. Our land count is 33, with 29 of those being mountains and 4 of those being non-basics. So a really solid mono red deck here for everybody today, and we're going to go over this and how we win with this deck. But the idea is to ramp quickly, so we are running creatures that are going to give us additional treasures or mana, and then we're trying to get to that 9 mana quickly with one of the bombs that we're going to basically copy 5 times and ruin everyone's day. So to start, here are the ones that make more mana. So Runaway Steamkin is making a counter for every single red cast that you do, and once you have 3, you're getting 3 additional mana. So this is something that you end up doing and then possibly saving for later if you're trying to get that Orthion trigger. A ton of the creatures right here are bringing in a treasure when they enter. So even though there are options, most of the time we are choosing that treasure, and we're just slowly stacking our treasures until we get to that 9 mark. In addition to that, we got Priest of Urabras, which is making 3 off of ETB, and then Emrakul's Hatcher is making 3 Eldrazi spawns. So those all count for mana, and each of these, if we are earlier in the game, you can do Orthion's first ability and just pay 2 to make a copy of them, which then gets you additional treasures. In addition to that, we are running cards that give us even more mana. So Solemn and Scampering Surveyor can fetch us a land out of our deck. Roseroom Treasurer is benefiting off of the ETBs by making us treasures. Rapacious Dragon brings 2 in. Goldspan Dragon makes our treasures sack and double. Ganex is making treasures off of dragons entering, and there are a lot of dragons here, and even if there's not, you got the copies that are happening. So one of our first ones to call out here is if you do end up copying Ganex the Astral Hunter, that results in 30 treasures, even though only 1 Ganex is going to live by the end of that. And then another call out here with Atsushi, after the death triggers resolve, if this is your chosen target, then it's going to make you 15 treasures after all of the death triggers. And then we've got spells for mana. So all of these are different spells that provide us with additional mana. So Jeska's Will is going to get you it based on cards in opponent's hands. Mana Geyser based on tap lands on the opponent's side of the board. Ruby Medallion and Fire Crystal are discounting these. Cursed Mirrors becoming a copy of something, so it's kind of like a pseudo copy for Orthion, so we can make a single second Terror of the Peaks if we wanted to. Sword of the Animist is fetching a land. Iron Crag Feed is really solid in this deck because for 4 mana you can turn it into 7, and if you happen to have 2 more sources of red, then you can do Orthion's trigger. So we're not even worried about the limit of only casting 1 more spell a turn. This is there to try to, beef us to that 9 mana that we want. Seething Song, very similar, for 3, turn it into 5. An Extra Planner Lens, similar to the Mana Flare on the previous slide, is doubling up our mountains. And then we've got the Enter the Battlefield creatures that do the damage, and some, kind of a combo here with Blasphemous Act and Repercussion. So if we can't get our engine going and our opponents have more creatures than us, then Blasphemous Act with Repercussion technically destroys everything and then redirects all of that damage to your opponents. That's whatever the excess is. But if we happen to get one of the dudes on the right out, then they're going to be doing a ton of damage in this deck. So starting with Inferno Titan, if you make 5 copies of him, it's 30 damage plus 5/6/6s attacking. If we move kind of to the right here, Red Dragon does the same type of deal. So 5 of those does 20 damage to each opponent. Fanatic of Mogus is dependent on your mountains as well as Spawn of Thraxus, but you can kind of see where this is going. Like if Red Dragon and Inferno Dragon are doing 3 each, then technically these at like 4 to 6 mountains are going to end the game. Terror of the Peaks getting copied just on its own. So if it's just Terror of the Peaks out and you make 5 more, that's 125 damage. And with Scourge of Valkis, it actually goes to 180 damage. So any single one of these out that gets copied with Orthion is going to end the game. Really, really awesome deck here. And then other broken ETB triggers. So we've got a Meteor Golem to deal with permanents. Dragon Trainer's pretty cool because she makes a 4/4 dragon every single time. So with the synergies with Ganex from earlier, we're kind of getting double benefits there. Coercive Recruiter is in the deck to take things, but we also are running Kiki Jiki, which we'll go into later. So that combos with Kiki Jiki to then make a bunch of copies and have a billion Coercive Recruiters out. Null Spine Dragon gets you a ton of draws if you're doing all this damage. Trumpeting Carnosaur lets you discover 5 multiple times. So obviously there's going to be 5 of those coming in. So you're going to get to discover 5 times. And then Cave of Chaos Adventurer lets you not only complete the Undercity dungeon, but then you get the 5 triggers off of the tokens attacking to just get your stuff off the top of your deck and then ultimately be able to play it. And since we are doing an enter the battlefield build here, that all kind of just doubles up even the way that Orthion would do it with the 5 tokens. We've got a ton of draw on the deck, and we are running all of the cards that give us draw and treasures. So Big Score, Unexpected Windfall, even though it's at sorcery speed, Seize the Spoils, and Pirate's Pillage. Glimpse the Impossible is really good in this deck as well, because yes, you are going to exile things, and if you happen to not cast those, then those are turning into spawns, which is more mana. We've got the Gamble on here to find what we might want to start copying. We've got Circuit Mender, Filigree Familiar, and Sky Scanner all drawing us a card when they enter or leave the battlefield. And then other good stuff in the deck. So here's the one I was kind of talking about at the start, There and Back Again. At the end of that lore, it's making a Smog token, and the Smog token says that when it dies, create 14 treasures. Now, because this is legendary, you're going to get to target it off of Orthion for the 5 copies, but then the other 4 immediately die, and you're going to end up getting 4 times 14, what is that? 66? 56. 56 treasures plus the 14 from the original Smog once he dies. We've got Sneak Attack in case we don't have the mana or we're getting land screwed. You can pay a red to put one of these big scary dragons in. Feldon for the recursion. Hellkite Tyrant, if we just have a big pile of artifacts, we win. And then other things to kind of mess with the board. So because these tokens from Orthion are going away at end of turn, a lot of the bottom row here was Zoyowa's Justice, Reality Scramble, Chaos Warp, and Guff Rewrites History. We can target our own tokens to get additional value. And Anzrag's Rampage is destroying all artifacts you don't control, and then you're exiling the top cards and any artifacts based on the number of artifacts put into the graveyard, and that you get to put a creature exiled this way onto the battlefield, and it gains haste and goes back to your hand and end step, so another ETB trigger there. And then finally, the other good stuff in the deck. So Kiki Jiki is here as a backup plan. He does combo off with a Coercive Recruiter like we discussed earlier. We've got Sundial of the Infinite to end our turn, so we get to keep all of the tokens and then do even more next time. Blade of Selves is giving one of those creatures myriads, so kind of a backup plan to make additional tokens if Orthion's not hitting that 9 mana. Panharmonicon to double up these ETB triggers. Sword of Hearth and Home is here for the blink on the creature, and then Ensnaring Bridge is here to kind of protect us from getting attacked. And with that, our show has come to an end. Thank you so much for watching our video. And if you enjoyed that video, feel free to share it out with any friends who might find value in it as well. Thank you so much for stopping by. We hope to see you again soon. Have a good one.